Alright guys, so today's video is a viewer suggested video by user SZ4HY80U3D. I'm going to do a review on Crete Carriers, so stick around to find out more. Alright guys, so as you heard in the intro, we're going to be talking about Crete Carriers today. So, let's get into it. I've been with Crete since June of 2022. I started here on the Mars Pet Care division. Basically ran out of the Temple, Dallas area is where most of my loads originated from. With that route, you only went about 350 to a maximum of 500 miles on any given load. I would average on that route between 18 and maybe 2,500 miles a week, and the 2,500 was really if I pushed super hard. My biggest issue with that route, besides the low mileage, was the asset manager, which is dispatcher. I was based out of the Wilmer terminal, and if there's Crete drivers watching this, you know exactly who I'm talking about. He was the asset manager for Mars Pet Care, and he was a loose cannon. One day he was great, the next day it was just boom, just complete jackwagon. So me and my buddy were both working with him, and we both got sick and tired of him, because I like to run hard. I like to do load after load after load after load. I like to be pre-planned at least 2 to 3 loads back. That way I know, okay, I'm going to be able to do this, 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 and this. Plus it also puts some pressure on you as well. And if you feel like you have that extra half hour to stop and be like, oh, I've got a half hour, I could stop and take pictures of something or do something like that, which I absolutely love taking pictures. It's one of my favorite things to do. Sometimes whenever you're kind of lazing about driving, you realize, crap, I got to get this load here. And that's the way I like to run. I like to run like I'm under pressure, like I'm being pushed to go, go, go. That's how I perform the best. So that's not how the Mars Pet Care one was. And I was basically Texas, Oklahoma, Louisiana, Arkansas, and occasionally I would run to Georgia, and that was on a very rare occasion. But I got tired of it, so I was actually getting ready to quit and go look at a different company, until my buddy called and said, hey Chris, I just switched over to the MS5. You should check it out and see what you think about it. So I looked into it, and I called my terminal manager, and then got a hold of my fleet manager and said, hey look, kind of getting tired of running on this route. Can I switch to this fleet? Yeah, no problem. Just come in tomorrow, sign your paperwork, we'll have you switched over by the weekend. Cool. And that fleet is the MS5, which is also MS6, and the MS14, I believe is what it's called. And what the numbers correlate for are the days that you work. So the MS5, you work 5 days, off 2 days. MS6, work 6 days, off 34. And the 14 is 14 days, off 2 to 3 days. I'm technically on the MS6 route, but I do anywhere between 11 to 16 days out. And I usually take 2 to 3 days off. I really don't like taking more than 3 days because it makes you completely unproductive. So I normally go out on a Tuesday, I work that whole week, then work the whole next week, and then come back on the following Saturday. I'm usually home 8, 9 o'clock Saturday morning. And fellow drivers out there, that first day you get home, you're sitting there going, I'm gonna go out, I'm gonna go have a couple beers with my buddies, I'm gonna go hang out with my wife, whatever. And the next thing you know, happens every time. My girl knows as soon as I walk in that door to just leave the couch open, because that's where I'm going to land. And I usually end up sleeping there all night long, get up in the morning, either make breakfast for everybody if they're awake, or make breakfast for me, have a nice hot cup of coffee, enjoy a shower that's not at a truck stop, because you will enjoy those nice hot showers at your house. And then not to mention using the facilities that nobody else has used, which is a big positive. So all in all, I run pretty good here. I really do. My dispatcher back on the MS5 had me routed really good. She would pre-plan the hell out of me. And the cool thing about the asset managers, dispatchers, I'm just going to say dispatcher from now on. Cool thing about them is you can call them and say, hey, look, I want to do a load to this state or to this state or this state. And they'll do it. As long as they have an opening and they don't have any dire loads that need to go now on the Mid-South, they'll put you on that load. For example, when I was on the MS5 in 2022, I called up my dispatcher and said, hey, look, I want some real good miles this week. Run me like a rabid dog. Just give me as many as you can. She gave me a thumbs up, said, all right, let's do it. So that Tuesday, I took off out of the house. I picked up in Temple, and I drove to Cheyenne, Wyoming. And then from Cheyenne, Wyoming, I went over to Green River, picked up a load out of there, and took it down to Salt Lake City. From Salt Lake, I went back up to Green River and then ran a load over to Ogden, Utah. From Ogden, I picked up another load and ran that to San Bernardino, California. And in between the two, I stopped in Vegas to do a 34-hour reset, because I ran so hard every single day that I was using up all my hours. So by the time my hours ran out, I was still a day and a half, 2 days for my recaps, which I had planned it all that way because it was going to be a live unload in San Bernardino. I think 4 days after I picked up, 3 or 4 days after I picked up. So I ended up going to Vegas, did my 34-hour reset there, had a little bit of fun. You know, you can't not have fun in Vegas, right? And then from there, went to San Bernardino, and then shot up to Prescott Valley, called an old trucking buddy of mine, and if y'all watched the previous video to this, you're going to know his name, and that old trucking buddy is Chris. I actually got to see my old trainer / co-driver that I drove with at Celadon and Searingen together. I hung out with him. We had dinner together. It was really good seeing him. He's doing a lot better health-wise than what he was a while back. So I'm very happy to see that he's doing well. And then from there, I shot up to, I think it was Flagstaff, picked up a load of dog food, and that went right back to Dallas. And I did that circle, and I did it in, technically, without the 34-hour reset, it would have only been 5.5 days, but putting that 34-hour reset in there was like 7 days. But still, for a week, that was a lot of miles. And I still wasn't done at that point. I started doing more runs, and from Dallas, I shot up to, I believe it was, I want to say Nebraska, and really, it sounds like a far distance, but if you look at a map, the United States is shorter than it is wider. So, when you hear you're going to Nebraska, you're like, man, that's a long drive. And then you realize from Dallas, it's only like 550 miles. I mean, if you play your cards right, you could do that in a day, easily. So, from there, I had to temporarily leave in January. My girlfriend had a medical emergency, so I left in January to go help her out. And dispatch was, Crete itself was completely understandable, the situation. I was actually in Missouri when I got the phone call that there was an emergency, and I called my dispatch and said, hey, look, I got to get going. I either, if I can't do this load, I need y'all to fly me home, get me on a bus, do something. And what they did for me was they canceled all the pre-plans that I had behind me. They had me to deliver the load that I was on to Arkansas. And then from there, they had me pick up a load in, I think it was Texarkana. Then from Texarkana, take it down to Temple, and then from Temple, go home. And the nice thing about going to Temple is Temple, I could literally throw a rock at my house from there. So I was home the day after I got the phone call, because I was planning on stopping for the night until I got the phone call, and it was like, oh, hell no. We're going to be like a bat out of hell. And I ended up driving through the night. I got to my delivery, picked up the load, went to a truck stop, and I shut down for my 8-2 split. Shut down for 8 hours, went to bed. As soon as my 8 hours picked up, took off. And I made it about 4 hours down the road, had to shut down for 2 more, and then ended up making it home that day. They were super understanding. I actually had the truck in my possession for, I think, 3 weeks before I finally had to make the decision of, hey, look, I'm going to need about 2 months off. and they had no problem that I had the truck. And I told them, I said, don't worry about sending somebody to pick it up. I'll have my buddy come follow me up to Wilmer. I'll drop the truck off, and I'll call y'all when I'm ready to come back. And about 2.5 months later, I called him back, and I said, hey, look, ready to come back. What do y'all got for me? And they understood that I needed to be home more at that point until she got 100% better. So they put me on a local route. And the local route was the DC 5, day cab 5. 5 days out, and I basically ran Temple to Dallas, Dallas Temple, and that's all I did every day, just that same repetitive loop. And it gets boring really quick, especially when you think Dallas traffic every day. Occasionally having to go down to Austin, make deliveries down there. I dealt with a lot of traffic. I really didn't make a whole lot of money on that run, but what I really needed at that point was to be home every day. And the dispatcher I had on that one wasn't bad, but I rarely talked to her since I was on night shift, but she would always pre-plan me when she would come in the morning. And so it was really helpful to have those pre-plans, but after about a week, you realize you're going to do the same repetitive circle over and over and over. The one thing I don't like about their day cab setup is they pay per mile. They pay per mile and they give you short haul pay. And it could be good, it could be bad. I don't particularly like it because it's a variable mileage. So between, I think it was like 50 and 100 miles, you got 80 something cents a mile. Then 101 to 150 miles, I think it was like 70 something, and it goes down, so on and so forth. But from 150 miles to 101, you got, I think it was a $50 short haul pay, and then from 100 miles down, you got, I think it was $75 or $80 short haul pay. So you could potentially make a lot of money doing it. With me, the problem with it was I was dealing with Dallas traffic. That's why I ended up switching to nights, because I could get through Dallas at night, the whole Metroplex at night, in 45 minutes, no problem. And a lot of the times what I would do is I'd pick up at Mars Pet Care in Temple, and I would run it to Mars Pet Care in Dallas. And then from there, I'd run over to Roanoke, Texas, pick up a load of like cereal or something, and bring it back down to the Walmart in Temple. Most drivers at that point would say, all right, I've done my runs. It'll only take me 5 hours to do it. So I'd say, hey, look, give me a load coming out of Temple going to Cleburne to deliver water to Walmart. Cool. So they'd give me that load. I'd run up there. They'd give me one more Roanoke load back. So I'd do anywhere between 2 to 4 loads a day. On average, it was 4. Occasionally, I would get that one load because there would be an issue, blowing tire, or you get held up at the shipper, stuff like that. And that's happened to me a couple of times. I actually got held up at Niagara and Temple for, I think it was 6.5 hours one day. So by the time I was good to go, my hours were already gone for the day. I had enough to get up to Cleburne, and then from Cleburne, I had to PC all the way back home. And with day cabs, they allow you to PC. And the way that they say it is you have to start your day and end your day in the same spot. As a sleeper driver, you're not allowed to PC. Now, that might have changed, and I might be wrong on that part, but from what I understand last time, we're not allowed to PC. But it really doesn't bother me all that much because I make sure to plan my day out ahead. If, for example, if I'm going down the road and I know I'm coming to, like where I'm at now, Atlanta, there is no truck parking whatsoever in Atlanta. I don't care what time of day it is. If you tell me you got truck parking, I'm going to ask you who you killed and dragged away, So what I ended up doing was I shut down outside of Atlanta, probably about 150 miles out of Atlanta. I shut down. That way I knew I had the time to get the load delivered. And if I had another load to pick up, I could pick it up and get out of Atlanta again. Or I was able to get the load delivered and immediately come over to the Marietta terminal, which is where I'm at right now. And the reason I do that is because there are certain places that you've driven in that you're not going to find a parking spot. And so Atlanta being one of the big ones. So it's really nice that they do have a terminal here because you can always pretty much find a spot. And if you can't find one, you could sure in the hell make a spot. And so it's nice having terminals in really busy areas, i.e. Fontana, California, Wilmer, Texas, Marietta, Georgia, Indianapolis, Indy, Cheyenne, Wyoming, and there's a couple more. I'm drawing a complete brain fart. So I did that for about 3 months, and then finally said, all right, look, I need to come back and do sleeper. I need to make more money. So they put me on what I'm on now, which is the MS6, and I do fairly well here. I do. Unfortunately, the past few months have been pretty rough, and that's not really fault of Crete. That's fault of the market. And the market has dropped big time when it comes to miles. Not a lot of freight being shipped, not a lot of stuff going on. So I went from averaging about 3,000 miles a week to maybe getting, on a good week, about 2,400, which isn't horrible, but it's not a lot of miles. Considering what some people are getting paid here, like I think on the Mars Pet Carrier, I think your pay starts out at like 51 cents a mile. And there are some routes that start out lower than that, and there's some routes that pay a hell of a lot more than that. Generally, I like being on this route for the reason of the dispatcher I have now. I can call her once again and say, hey, look, I don't want to run Midwest this week. Send me out to California, send me out to Ohio, send me somewhere. And I will drive anywhere with the exception of New England. That's the only area on the map that I won't drive to. I've done my time years ago. I don't need to do it anymore. And so when it comes to like Boston, New York, New Jersey, basically any of those states past North Carolina, I don't mess with. But Ohio, Michigan, really anything from there to the left, I'll do. I'll do Washington, I'll do Oregon. I don't care. It doesn't bother me. So if I was smart, I'd go OTR because it does pay a little bit more. But the problem is I believe they want you out for at least 3 weeks on that one, and that's not something that I could promise Crete. Because there are some weeks where with this route, technically I'm only a 1 week driver. So there are some weeks where I'll call my dispatcher and say, hey, look, I'm only going to do a week out. Send me out Tuesday, get me home Saturday. Cool, no problem. It's usually get me home Saturday night. And what's actually cool about it is, so if you're on a home time load and you're heading home and you're driving to your receiver, you drop off that load at 12:01 p.m., you've technically dropped off that load on Sunday. But if you drop off that load at 12 p.m., you dropped off the load on Saturday. And the reason they do that is because some drivers have a huge amount of deadhead to get home. There's some that'll deadhead 200 miles easily, and that's a lot for the company, but there are some people that live in the middle of the sticks. I unfortunately live in Austin, and Austin is not a huge shipping hub. The one positive that I have going for me is I live about 60 miles south of Temple, which there's a little bit of shipping going on there. Luckily, the Austin Round Rock area is starting to build up areas to have shippers and receivers and all that, so it's going to be a positive for that. It might mean there's going to be more loads coming out, Amazon warehouses, and then they're building the Samsung factory out there, along with the Tesla Gigafactory. Not sure if we're really going to do anything with them, but it is possible we might haul parts for the cars, or parts for the batteries, or parts for whatever. Either way, whatever they want to give me, I'll take it. It doesn't bother me, because I'll run hazmat, I'll run short haul, whatever. But like today, they sent me a load after I got up, and I looked at the load and realized it was pick up here at the terminal and take it to Macon, which Macon's only like 100 miles away. So I said, no, I'm not going to do that run. And they asked me why I wasn't going to do it, and I said, well, one, I'm almost out of hours as it is. So by the time I'm done with that load, I'm not going to have anywhere to park tonight. And they understood when I said that. I said, two, I'm looking for a long run. Said, well, if we get you to Macon, you might be able to find something longer. I was like, it shouldn't make a difference between being in Macon or being in Atlanta. It's still the same area. So then later on, they sent me another load picking up here and going, I can't remember exactly where it went, but it was only a 30-mile run. And I just sent them a message saying it's a very unproductive run. And most of the time when you're getting runs like that, the 30-mile or 100-mile runs, those are coming straight from the planners. When it comes from your dispatcher normally knows, okay, we got to get him, now that it's Sunday, Monday, whatever, we need to start routing him closer to his house now. And so when I called my dispatch, said, hey, look, I need a run. I need something good. She says, all right, give me half an hour. I'll let you know what to look for. And about 20 minutes later, she sent me a message going, all right, got a run coming your way. Keep your eyes open. And as soon as I did, boom, it's pick up 40 miles away, run it over to Bentonville, Arkansas. It's about a 800-mile run. That's good money right there. And then from there, I'll most likely go to probably Oklahoma or Nebraska, somewhere along those lines, and then eventually start working my way home to get home on Saturday. So realistically, the pay here is fair. It really is. It pays a lot more than training companies, but does not pay as much as smaller companies. But you're treated like a human being here, and for me, that's a big deal. To be treated like a human and not a number is kind of unheard of in an industry like this. A lot of the times, you're just a replaceable commodity, which really sucks. It does. But I can pretty much call anybody in this company, including the CEO. The only people you can't really call, which you can, is the maintenance people. But you really don't want to talk to them. Usually the second you call them, it's maintenance. You know, you're really inconveniencing them for calling them. So, but it's a good company. It really is. I've had a lot of fun working here. I've made a lot of money working here. Like I said, this year hasn't been super great with the runs and the money so far. And I'm sure on other divisions like OTR or anything like that, they're probably making better money. But I just, like I said, I can't dedicate myself to doing 3 weeks out, whatever. If I didn't have a family, the way that I used to run back in the day was, before I met my girlfriend and my daughter, I would run 2 to 3 months at a time, and I'd come home for 2 days. And that's usually it, you know. And a lot of people be like, oh, you don't come home for longer? No. I live in my truck, you know, so I come home, I hang out with my buddies for a couple days, we'll go out, have a couple drinks, whatever, and then I get right back out on the road. But doing this on the route that I'm on guarantees that I'm home at least every week, at least, but most of the time I'm home every 2 weeks. Most of the runs you're going to look at on a dedicated route, the average run, you're going to look at about 650 on the miles. I've had some as high as about 900 miles on specifically the Mid-South. But when I'm doing a California run, those are usually the runs that you see, like your empty miles is 40 miles to go pick up the load, but your loaded miles are 1,600 miles. Which, when you see that, all you see is money signs popping up in your eyes. But the one thing that does suck about Crete is their payroll cutoff date. A lot of companies' payroll cutoff date is Saturday. Crete's is Friday. So if you have a run, say starts Tuesday, and you deliver it Thursday, they give you another run and they say, all right, you're going to go from here to Salt Lake City. 800-900 mile run. You know you're not going to have it there by Friday. So what really sucks is if you ran an 1,100 mile load and you ran a 300 mile load on your way home the week before, you're only looking at 1,500 miles. But that 800, 900 mile load that you're on now won't go on your check until next paycheck. And that's kind of the cycle that it is, and that's where, when I'm on a home time load, occasionally I'll wait until midnight to turn in a load. And so I've done some where I've gotten more than enough miles for that week, where since the loads will overlap, I'll be sitting on 4,000 miles for 1 week on pay. And so what I'll end up doing is I'll take a short load, 500-600 mile load, and I'll pull that off that week and scan it in that Saturday so it goes on my next paycheck. Crete normally doesn't have a problem with it as long as you don't wait 5-6 days to scan paperwork in. But as long as you have it scanned in 24-48 hours, it's perfectly cool. Walmart loads, they usually want those scanned in right away though, so they get paid immediately. We do a lot of work with Walmart, with Hershey's, with Kimberly-Clark, stuff like that. And so we do have a lot of customers that have a lot of stuff that need to be ran. So that's definitely very helpful at least you know that there are customers that have been in business for many, many, many years that'll stay in business for a while. So, you know, as long as y'all keep providing that service, you're going to keep having decent runs at least. So, would Crete be a company I would suggest? Yes, I would. I don't suggest a lot of trucking companies, Crete being the rare exception. I have actually referred a couple of drivers here that are still driving here to this day. On some of their trailers, you'll see on the side, you know, our most valuable assets is 63 foot ahead of us. I used to make fun of that truck whenever I drive for selling. I think that's ridiculous. You know, how stupid can they be? But then I came to work here and I realized, like, all right, yeah, cool. Yeah, no, that is true. The pay is fair. They have quite a bit of terminals, and in each terminal they offer free laundry, free showers. Usually going to find parking there. The maintenance shops, they're hit and miss depending on where you go. I avoid the Wilmer shop for anything, to be honest with you. I'll usually wait until I'm up in Cheyenne, or I'll go to the Hunt Yard in Omaha. That one's pretty quick because not a lot of people know about it, so those shop guys get you in and out pretty quick. So the pay here, it's fair. It is. I make 58 cents a mile on my route, and usually I can walk away each week, depending on how hard I ran, anywhere between $1,200 to $1,900 a week. For example, 2 weeks ago, I had my highest grossing paycheck so far, and it was grossed out at $2,200, and it ended up bringing, after taxes and all expenses, it brought it down to like, I think $1,500. I had a few things that came out of there on top of taxes, so that's why it was a little bit lower. But then I've also had the occasional paycheck where, you know, I walk away with $700-800, and that does happen. The one thing you got to remember about this industry is sometimes it's feast and sometimes it's famine. And unfortunately, right now, it is famine like crazy. You do get the rare unicorn of a load right now. Hopefully, it will start picking back up. I'm really hopeful that it does. Because we really need it to. Some of us are tired of going broke. And the way that I run, I should not be running low on miles. So, but if y'all decide to go to Crete, I'm going to drop my email in the description. Let me know if any of y'all are looking into Crete, and I'll shoot you my driver code. And if y'all decide y'all want to come over here, let me know, man. Both get us a little bit of a bonus. So with that being said, guys, I really hope you enjoyed the video. Once again, I'm going to drop a link for my email, and let me know if you want to come over. And I've also got my Amazon affiliate links for my Bluetooth earbuds and CV. And yeah, I hope you guys have a good one. I will see you in the next one.